In today's lesson, we are going to learn about powers. So we're going to look back to when we learned about multiplication. We learned that multiplication was just repeated addition. So if I had something like this, 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3, and I said that is equal to 15. That took a long time to write out. We learned a shorter and easier way of writing that out is just going to be 3 times, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3. So 3 multiplied by 5, we said, is also equal to 15. Okay? So much like how multiplication was repeated addition, powers is just going to be repeated multiplication. So we're going to be looking at things with the same base. So addition, if we had the same number repeated and being added together, that was multiplication. If we have the same number repeated and being multiplied together, that's going to be called a power. So just before we go on and get some examples of powers, we're going to go into here some definitions of what is a power. So first of all here, this b, this is going to be my base. So that's called the base. Then that little number that is superscript, that is going to be my exponent. Then we have this whole thing all together here. That is what is called the power. Now, what it's equal to, after being expanded and multiplied out, this x, that is going to be my standard form and how we normally write our answers. So let's look at this again. The b is what is being multiplied. That's my base. That is the number being multiplied over and over and over. E tells us how many times b is being multiplied together. And the x, that's just going to be my answer. And all together, so that e, the exponent, is how many times the number is being multiplied together. The b is what number is being multiplied together. And all of this together is called the power. Okay? So now we're going to look at a couple of examples here that we are going to convert to powers. So let's look at my first one. My first one is just going to be 3 multiplied by 3 multiplied by 3 multiplied by 3 multiplied by 3. So I look at this here. This is the same as 3 being multiplied together. It's being repeatedly multiplied together 5 times. So that's going to be 3 exponent 5. So my power is 3 to the 5. Okay? Let's take a look at my next one. So for this next one here, I'm going to try negative 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. So if I look at this here, I have 3 being multiplied together 4 times. Only one of them has a negative, so I'm going to pretend this was actually negative 1. Okay, and I'm going to say negative 1 times 3. So this one here is going to end up giving negative 3 to the power of, we have 4 3's. Okay, so in this case here, only the 3 has the exponent 4. This negative is not affected by the exponent. Now I'm going to give you one more. So let's try this one here. If I have negative 3 multiplied by negative 3 multiplied by negative 3 multiplied by negative 3. So now, what is this one here? I look at this, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 3's. Now this one here is going to be negative 3, and every time it is negative 3 being multiplied together, so it's going to be negative 3 to the power of 4, because we're using negative 3 every time. Okay, now let's look at a different example. Now we're going to look at the exact opposite. We're going to convert this into power, or we're going to expand these. We're going to solve for the powers, put into standard form. Put the following into standard form. So let's try this first one. If I have 2 to the power of 4. So what is 2 to the power of 4? That's the same thing as saying 2 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 2. 4 times. Now I look at this. What is 2 times 2? 4. 2 times 2 here is 4. So what is 4 times 4 is 16. So my answer here is going to be 16. Let's take a look at our next one. We're going to try now, let's say 3, negative 3 to the power of 5. I look at this here, this is going to give me negative 3. Now, it's a negative, remember there's like a 1 there, not the negative is being multiplied by, or is being repeated, only the 3 is being repeated. So it's negative 3 multiplied by negative, or multiplied by 3, multiplied by 3, multiplied by 3, multiplied by 3. So the 3 is being multiplied together 5 times, and we know our answer is going to be negative. So what this is going to give me is, what's 3 times 3? That's going to give me 9. 3 times 3 is 9 as well, and then we have another 3. So now I'm going to end up getting 9 times 9 is negative 81. This is all negative. Then we have to still multiply that by 3. So 81 times 3 is going to give me negative 243. Okay, let's look at another example here. Now this one I'm going to use brackets. So let's try this one here. If I put negative 4, and I'm going to say to the power of 4. Now if I look at this, this is saying everything in here has to be multiplied together 4 times. So everything in the brackets is multiplied together 4 times. In this case, it is including the negative. So this is going to end up giving me negative 4 multiplied by negative 4 multiplied by negative 4 multiplied by negative 4. Okay? I multiply these here together. That's going to give me a negative times a negative is a positive. So that's going to give me 16. I multiply these together. I have a negative times a negative, and that is a positive. So that's going to give me also 16, positive 16. So now I'm going 16 times 16. That's going to give me 256. All right? We're going to do one more here. Let's try this next one. I'm going to try, let's go this way, negative 3 to the 3. Now if I look at this, this 3 is inside the brackets, so it must be doing whatever, it's only cubing this 3, because it's inside the brackets. This negative is also inside the brackets, but there is nothing, but this 3 here is only being related to that 3 there. So my exponent is only related to the 3 and not the negative, since they're both inside the brackets. So this is going to end up giving me negative, everything's going to be negative, 3 times 3 times 3. Okay? Because this is essentially equivalent to saying negative 3 to the 3. Now, we look at this here. This gives me 9, and this is going to give me times 3, which is going to give me a total of negative 27, because everything must be negative, because only the 3's are being multiplied together. So now we're going to look at a couple more challenging ones and still convert from power form to standard form and export, in other words, expanding them. But we're going to look at ones with a little bit more negatives, and we're going to look at ones where there's more than one power. So let's try my first one here. We're going to look at this one here. So I'm going to have negative, bracket, negative 3, and I'm going to go to the power of 3. All right, so now if I'm looking at this, we have negative 3 to the power of 3. So that means all of these here are being multiplied together. The negative 3 is all being multiplied together. It's not just 3, it's negative 3, because all of this is in the brackets and the exponent is outside of the brackets. So if I look, we still have that negative on the outside, and we have negative 3 multiplied by negative 3 multiplied by negative 3. So altogether, this gives me negative, and then here, negative 3 times negative 3 is going to be positive 9, and then we still have to multiply by negative 3. So now I have negative 9 multiplied by negative 3 is going to give me a total of 27. So altogether, my total number is going to be a positive at 27. Let's look at my next one here. We're going to look at negative 2, and that's going to be squared, multiplied by 3 squared, or sorry, 3 cubed. Okay? So, negative 2 squared, so that's going to be negative 2 times negative 2. All right? because we have to do both the negative and the positive because it's in brackets. Now I want to multiply that by 3 multiplied by 3 multiplied by 3. So now this is going to end up getting me 2 times 2 is 4, negative and negative is a positive, multiplied by 3 times 3 is 9, and then we have to multiply by another 3. So I multiply these three things together. Order multiplication, remember, doesn't matter. 4 times 3 is 12, times 9 is going to give me 108. All right, and it's going to be positive because all that's left now are positives. What if now I did it like this, though? Okay, or I'll just even make this a bit better. What if I did it like this? If I didn't have those brackets. Now this would change it a bit, okay? So here I have a negative and then 2 multiplied by 2, only the 2's being repeated. And then I'm going to multiply this by, we have 3 3's being multiplied together. Okay? So once again, here we go 2 times 2 is 4, but there's a negative outside, so it's going to be negative 4. And here I'm going to have 3 times 3 times 3 is 27, multiplied by 27. And we know 27 times 4 is equal to negative 108 this time. So if we look at this, there's actually a difference between this one and this one. Here is my very last question for you guys. We're going to look at negative 5 cubed multiplied by negative 2 squared. All right, so here it's saying we have this negative 5 being multiplied together 3 times. Here it's saying we have 2 being multiplied twice. Okay, because it's inside the brackets and the exponent's outside, so it means we're squaring everything inside the brackets. Here, we're cubing everything inside the brackets. So now what we end up getting is 5 to the power of 3 is going to be negative 125. Because we have a negative being multiplied together 3 times. So I have positive 25 multiplied by negative 5 will give me negative 125. Then I'm going to multiply that by negative 2 times negative 2 is 4. So altogether, I'm going to end up getting negative 500. Because 125 times 4 is going to be 500. And we have a negative because there's more. And even if we look at this here, we have altogether 5 negatives being multiplied together, which means my answer should be negative.